and welcome to The Joy in Seeing Differently. I'm Terry Hyam, your host, and with me today I have Vinnie Gill. Vinnie is an agile coach and Pilates teacher and loves helping people. Vinnie and I met through our mutual support of the agile community in Sydney. Vinnie is now in the beautiful city of Perth. So you and I have known each other for a while, Vinnie, but maybe for the viewers that don't know you, maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit more.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everyone. As Terry mentioned, I'm Vinnie and I'm an agile coach. And prior to my life in Australia, I moved from the UK. I lived in Sydney for a few years and now I'm currently in Perth on a contract. So I'm not really sure what next. I'm pretty open. I'm also, as Terry mentioned, a Pilates teacher, and I really enjoy teaching and helping people. Pre-COVID, I used to work in the weekends at a physio, just to help people who are recovering from injuries. So that's a wee bit about myself.
Thank you. So before we started this episode, we were talking about being present and how being present can enable people to be more grateful. Did you want to just share your thoughts on the idea around being present?
Yes, absolutely. So I always feel that gratitude is a state of awareness. So when somebody doesn't express gratitude, it might not be that they're ungrateful, because that might be the automatic assumption, but perhaps they're not in the state of awareness. They're perhaps oblivious or unaware. So to me, it's we can hone on and build those pathways to enable us to create that self-awareness. And one of the possible ways of doing that is actually the power of mindfulness. Yeah. Are you a mindfulness practitioner, Terry?
I try. Certainly mindfulness is, and awareness, self-awareness, of being present, are fabulous tools to help you see differently so you can find joy. When you're truly aware of your present moment, the things that are stressful are less stressful, and the things that are joyful are more joyful. So often the things that create stress and difficulty for us are only because of the way we're looking at it. And sometimes people create stress by just focusing in on the problem so much. Their mind is spinning. The little voice is just repeating messages, none of which are about the present moment. What's your take on that?
Well, similarly, I also feel that it is human nature to tend to dwell on things when they're not going well. And you can actually use some of the tools that you learn in mindfulness, where you practice changing and pivoting your thoughts. While you might have the same initial reaction to feel negative, with practice, you can get through that stage more quickly. So it's always having that awareness. Don't dwell deep, and then catch yourself, bring yourself back. And in time, you'll find yourself bringing yourself back quickly and not dwelling too much on that. One of the things I feel that could cause people to dwell or maybe be stuck in the past is perhaps that achievement culture that some of us are actually in. So with that, we are always striving better, to be better, whether it's materials or wanting more out of life or wanting absolute perfection. If gratitude is actually a recipe to improve mental well-being, then that culture is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you want more and more, you're actually never in the state of content
Yeah.
where you can just be.
Yeah. I so wholeheartedly agree. There are moments of joy that come from that achievement culture. So you may have for a long period been trying to get that new car or get some acquisition of something. And at the moment that you get it, it is a joy. You're really happy. Yay, I got the new car. But after a while, it's just a car. There's no long-term joy that comes from achieving a thing or acquiring a thing or anything like that. That actually distracts you from what the real joy is. And it also puts your focus always on something other than now. I'll be happy when we're married. I'll be happy when we have children. It'll all be okay when we get the new house. It'll all be better when I get a new car. Everything is all about something that's going to happen. And meanwhile, I'm missing the joy that's in the present moment.
Yeah. It's also when you mentioned, you get a car and then what next? Do you get a bigger car
Yeah, yeah,
and a bigger car after that?
yeah,
So you're never being able to just be content and focus on actually being happy with the things you have
yeah.
rather than just trying to achieve more. That's actually quite exhausting to the
It
mental
is.
state at the
It
same
is.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's never enough. That
Mm.
that ability to be content with your current situation, the current moment, is such a powerful tool. You mentioned also the that awareness and being able to snap back. Uh, I think once people understand that the subconscious wants to distract you, it wants to demand your attention, it doesn't understand the present moment, so it will always be thinking about the past or the future. You're reliving something that's negative, or you're worrying about something that might happen in the future that's negative. And when you can actually build that awareness to step back into the present moment and realize, actually, there is no threat to my life at the moment, and everything actually is going pretty well. That change, though, is the hard thing. Or not the change, sorry, the awareness of the need to change is the hard thing. And generally, people will have to practice something for a while before they get better at it. They'll catch themselves after the event. It might be a few hours after, but as long as they try, it will get closer and closer to the event. Do you have a favorite way of helping people to build that awareness?
Yes, I don't have a favorite way per se, but I feel what you just mentioned is for me, it always starts with the intent. So
Right.
perhaps listening to our conversation, it might inspire you to start with that intent. Once you have that intent, then you could possibly work your ways in little small wee chunks, not just going the full spectrum from one end to the other end. So for me, it's like for some people the desire to be constantly grateful because perhaps you're trying something, so you're trying a bit too hard and you can overdo it at the same time. And when that happens, it can be a form of toxic positivity, which actually can lead to negative mental impact because the brain is ticking all the time. So I also feel it's important to allow and respect our individual differences so that we can actually choose how we want to employ gratitude in a way that perhaps also benefits us to the greatest extent. Uh, each individual can also vary in the way they feel at any particular time. So while having and showing gratitude can have positive effects, it's important not to make that form into a pressure. So find something that actually works for you. Um, the important thing is to find balance, and I suppose one way that I can actually maybe illustrate this better is the symbol of yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as to find that perfect balance. So even when you're in that white zone, there is that black spot that you can possibly fall in.
I think that's a beautiful illustration. You're so right around that sort of toxic positivity, and it can also almost become an achievement in itself. And people almost, I have seen that focusing so much on it that it just becomes another expression of the ego. It can get quite destructive. I think the idea of presence doesn't mean we're always happy and we're always grateful. You know, if I get a flat tire, I don't leap out of the car and go, yay, a flat tire, I'm so grateful. You know, you're like, oh God, a flat tire. But by being present, you know, you can realize, okay, it's a flat tire. It's just one of those problems that I have to deal with, and I'll deal with it one way or another. You know, I'll either change it or I'll call someone who can help me change it, or something like that. If you're not present, then it can become, oh God, now I've got a flat tire and now I'm going to be late and that means I won't get the job, and you know, and you spin it into a much bigger dilemma.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And you know, there's a lot of talk about this, you know, gratitude journals and out there, because that seems to be the natural thing that people say when you talk about trying to practice that muscle, because I believe it is a muscle. How we stop ourselves when we dwell deep, pull it back. It's a muscle. Being present and being content. It's a muscle at the same time. But don't feel pressured about it. You know, it all starts back with that intent, and what works for someone else might not work for you.
Hmm.
I did keep gratitude journals or gratitude lists at certain times of my life. And like, you know, every other human being, sometimes things really didn't go well and I stopped. But what happened is after a few weeks or months, I realized, hey, you know, I need to get back into that because that was actually working for me, just going to bed and writing a few things. So if journaling doesn't work, don't beat yourself up. Maybe you like to start with drawing,
Oh
because
yeah.
you might, yeah, you can draw things that you're grateful for. Because maybe you might not be at that stage where you're comfortable to express, because not everybody is able to express that. So work in little wee chunks and find a way that can get gratitude working for you.
Mm. Beautiful example. I've kept gratitude journals in the past as well. I'm not keeping one at the moment. I love the idea of drawing, and I never actually tried that. I do use drawing in other places, but I never tried that in a gratitude journal, because drawing allows you to call on the creative and emotional centers of the brain without needing to pass through language. So you'll often find you get a deeper insight from something that you draw than from writing words.
Like being grateful and gratitude, the joy is in the giver and the recipient as well. It's a two-way thing, right? So you have internal and external gratitude, the gratitude you have and the gratitude you give.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not at the giving stage yet. then start with the gratitude that you have. But maybe you're a giver and you're unable to actually be present, and you're stuck in that spiraling stage. Pick something that works for you.
That's such a beautiful point. It is something great for both people. It's a gift to yourself, as much as it is a gift to someone else that you're grateful for, or grateful for something they've done. The intent can start with almost physical things. You mentioned before, starting with intent. I think that's a really key point. If our intent is to be happier, and we recognize then that gratitude is one way that we can achieve that, it's going to be the things you can point to that you'll start being grateful for. And as that develops, you'll be grateful to someone for doing something for you, or for something they gave you, or for doing a good job, or something like that. If you can actually practice that and build that muscle, then you can start to develop the ability to be grateful for people just for who they are, and for that beautiful, fabulous energy that they bring to the world. Not necessarily waiting for them to do something. Just be grateful for their very existence.
I like that. Not waiting for them to do something, just being grateful for their very existence. That's very nicely. That's very, very nicely put. Yeah. For me, it's one of my favorite holidays is actually Thanksgiving.
Right.
And I find myself asking, why is this holiday my favorite holiday, and why does it mean so much to me? And it's actually because it's the least commercial holiday. It's
Yeah.
stripped back to its bare bones, where it's simply a group of people, friends and family, sitting around the table and eating, which is something that people don't do very often nowadays because they get stuck in their lives, and they have their phones and their screens and everything. And it starts with just going around the table before eating and saying, what are you grateful for? And I've seen throughout the years with people who sit around the table with me, that it actually forces them to pause and think back. And even for me, it's like that reflection, a playback of my past year and everything that happened very quickly before it's my turn, and what actually I was grateful for. But similarly, also to listening into other people and what they're grateful for, it'll trigger something in me that, oh, actually, I should have
Yeah.
been grateful for that too. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, and there's no presents or anything like that. There's no material things. Just going around and just being thankful for everybody and all our friends and family.
That's beautiful. So as you said, the gratitude someone else expresses for something reminds you and triggers in you that, yeah, wow, actually that is a great thing, and I'm grateful for that too. But you're sharing something meaningful, and then sharing a fabulous meal together, and really connecting with the people around the table, or these days on the video chat, possibly. Who knows what'll happen by Thanksgiving?
To get you over for Thanksgiving then, Terry.
I'd love
To
that. That would be cool.
the joy and, make new friends and start new traditions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we give thanks with every meal, but we haven't actually practiced Thanksgiving as a holiday, as an event. But now that you mention it, I think it sounds like a great idea, and maybe we should. So, yeah. Okay, so we're pretty much at time in this episode. We've talked about presence, we've talked about awareness, we've talked about intent, we've talked about gratitude, building the gratitude muscle. There's so much in there that can help people see differently so they find joy. So thank you so much for your time and your investment, and just for being the beautiful creature that you are. Thank you, Vinnie.
Thank you, Terry, for having me. It was really great seeing you again after all this while, although on video. And I hope we'll see you again in person in the meetup community, or even at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, who knows? Thanks, Vinnie.